Hello, today we are going to be talking about enameling. Enameling is defined as a vitreous, glass-like coating fused onto a metallic base. This is done by sifting enameling powder, or finely ground glass, onto gold, silver, brass, or copper metal. Enameling dates back as early to the 13th century BC, but was popularized during the 9th century AD by the Byzantine Empire. They mostly used an enameling technique called cloisonne to decorate relics. For example, this cloisonne medallion depicting St. Paul. This was then used to inspire the Germanic tribes as well as the Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, and Hiberno-Saxons during the migration art period. Art during this period was made to be portable and detailed, and was often influenced by multiple art styles from different regions. For example, this purse clasp was made portable but was still intricate enough to show the power and wealth the owner had. It is influenced by the Celtic, which is in the top three figures, the cloisonne style from the Byzantine Empire, and the Germanic animal style, which is depicted in the three figures at the bottom. During the 15th century, the skills of enamel artisans were gaining complexity as they tried new techniques, such as pechakucha, seen here with the maraude cup, but it wasn't until the 18th century that enameling broke out of the more religious subject matter. Today, it is used in contemporary jewelry with a wide variety of techniques. The techniques that I will be talking about in this PowerPoint are the traditional cloisonne, champlevé, pechakucha, and the more modern stenciled, painted, charcoal drawing on enamel, and torch-fired enamel. Cloisonne is made by shaping thin, flat, enclosed silver or gold walls on a metal base that will shape your design for the piece. To ensure your walls stick to the bottom of your piece, you are going to put a thin layer of white enamel before you add any color. Wet packing is a process where the enamel powder is mixed with water. The light dust particles will be drained off, leaving the heavier, richer particles. Wet enamel is then packed into enclosed spaces in thin layers. Once you finish wet packing, you fire your piece in the kiln until your enamel is flush. The second technique is champlevé, which is similar to cloisonne. However, the walls for this piece are etched into the metal with either carving tools or by using ferric chloride. If you're using ferric chloride, you need to ensure that your acid-resistant coating for your design does not wear off and destroy your design or your metal. For this technique, you do not have to use a white or clear base since your walls are already attached, and you can go straight into the process of preparing your enamel for wet packing and firing your piece until the enamel is flush or perfectly even with the top of the piece's walls. Pechakucha, which is French for letting in daylight, is also made by filling cells or walls with enamel. However, this time there is no backing. When sawing out the design or cells for your piece, you need to saw at an angle so that the wet enamel can be held in by tension created from the water. The cells can be no longer than the size of your pinky nail, or the enamel will not have enough to grab onto and run out of your piece. Once again, you continue to wet pack your work until the entire piece is flush on the surface, leaving you with a lovely stained glass effect. For a simpler approach, but still filled with details, you can use stencils. This time, you gently lay your stencil over your flat piece of metal and sift dry enamel powder on top of it, and then carefully, as to not disturb the dry powder on the piece, you lift your stencil and fire your piece in the kiln. For painted enamel, as the name implies, you're going to paint with wet enamel to get the desired transitions of color and as many details as you would with oil paint, but instead with glass. The most crucial step for painting enamel is once the color is painted, you must let it dry completely before you add the other colors to avoid them running together when the piece is fired in the kiln. For drawing on enamel, you first add a layer of opaque color, which is sifted onto the metal dry, and once it is fired, you can use a whetstone to sand down the surface, making it coarse enough to hold the charcoal to draw your design. You then add another layer of thin, completely transparent or clear enamel on top to ensure your drawing stays. Torch-fired enamel is a technique that can be used instead of using a kiln. Torch firing creates a different design by oxidizing the enamel, which doesn't occur in kiln firing. This gives more flexibility for where you're putting your heat. With this technique, you must heat the piece either from the bottom or a layer of already fired enamel to create indirect heating. This process is crucial to ensuring your enamel powder does not burn. So here are some other inspirations and artists. Linda Darty is well known for her beautiful flower-like cloisonne enamel, inspired by her mother and her gardening club. She also wrote the book, The Art of Enameling, Techniques, Projects, and Inspirations. Debbie Sheasel, which is fascinated by the color of butterflies, has won the 2016 Saul Bell Award for enameling and is self-taught. She fell in love with enameling at first sight and has been working with enamel for over 50 years. Susan Essler has grown up with a love for creating, but got her degree in graphic design, since it seemed more realistic at the time. Eventually, she found a hobby in beading, which led her back to jewelry making, which she does today. Lisa Hawthorne found her love of jewelry in high school, but after marriage and travel, she decided to work on found wood sculptures. She later picked enamel back up because she felt like she needed color in her life.